Joining me now is Congressman Gregory Meeks of New York. He's the ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman Meeks, thank you as always for coming to the Saturday show. I want to pick up with you. Thank you. I want to pick up on the words of Senator Lindsey Graham, because I found it curious that, one, he goes out there and says that President Zelensky was disrespectful, but then says that President Zelensky needs to resign. Now, you have said that you believe that this meeting was that this whole showdown was a setup. But was it a setup for that sole purpose, to lay the groundwork to push Zelensky out of office?
Well, that is part of the deal, because that's what Vladimir Putin wants. He wanted it back in 2016 when he was president the first time. He wants it now more than ever, because he wants to control and take over Ukraine. That's part of what this is about, and destroy NATO. That's part of this also. Vladimir Putin, when he's attacked, he thought that he would be able to break up NATO and break up the European countries. When in fact, under the leadership of Joe Biden, NATO got stronger. For the first time, Sweden and Finland, who had been historically a neutral country, decided that they needed to join NATO to protect themselves from the thug Putin. And this is what we're doing now. The United States, under Trump and Vance, they are helping the only one that benefited from yesterday, Vladimir Putin, by trying, since you couldn't separate Europe, because they seem to be tighter than ever, separate the United States from its European allies and try to strip them so that then Russia can continue with what it wants to do, to move in, to take over Ukraine and move in some of the other countries on the European continent.
It took 80 years to build the liberal, small d democratic order that the United States and the Europeans helped build. And it took just maybe 10 minutes to blow the whole thing up, metaphorically speaking. How concerned, you're the ranking member on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Not sure if you have heard from any of your European counterparts, but how concerned are they that they just witnessed the end of NATO?
They're very concerned. We heard from one of the leaders of Estonia that's saying that there may need to be a new world leader for freedom, because you can't rely on the United States anymore. I am very concerned. They're all moving away and saying that we cannot depend upon the United States to be the trusted ally that it has been for the last 80 years, that we've got to look at just ourselves. And what is very concerning to me is some of my Republican colleagues who said that they were with Zelensky, and said that they want to, sustain and work with him, and they were beating up and trying to, with Joe Biden. Where are their voices now? This is the time, if they're really with our NATO allies, if they're really with Mr. Zelensky, if their voices need to be heard now, and we can do something in Congress collectively together. But we don't hear from them. In fact, we hear them flip-flopping, as you just showed with Lindsey Graham, siding with Vladimir Putin. One other thing, Jonathan.
Yeah.
The UN vote. For the first time, you see the United States of America voting with Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Yes, in answer to your question, it changes the diplomatic world and where we've been for the last 80 years.
One more question on this, and I have to ask you about what's going on here in New York. The likelihood that the next step from President Trump and the Trump administration is to withdraw American troops from Europe, from the big base at Ramstein in Germany.
I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned what he will say on Tuesday night at the State of the Union. Everything's up in the air here. This guy is clearly not with our allies. Just think about what he's done in the first month or so that he's been in the office. All of our allies he has dealt with as adversaries. All of our adversaries he's dealt with as allies. It just makes no sense, and I don't think that the American people will stand up for that. And I would hope that Congress, because we're supposed to be the oversight of the executive branch, that Congress stands up in a bipartisan way and tells him that we're going to make sure that we stand with our allies.
Okay.
Alliances moving forward, because they are too cowardly to stand up for Western democracy and America's position in the world. For Donald Trump, It was outrageous. I'm embarrassed for this country. Every Republican that is backing Trump and Vance's ambush of Zelensky, who is a hero. This man is in a wartime president. In Europe, our grandfathers fought World War II. They crossed oceans to make sure that democracy held in this world against fascism and authoritarianism and what Putin and Russia represent. And this is what we do to their legacy. It's shameful. And every Democrat and Republican who knows better should be aligned on their messaging, condemning Donald Trump and what J.D. Vance did.
It's so interesting because Lindsey Graham said he was proud of the Oval Office blow-up, but he said something else in those remarks that I want to play. Let's play Lindsey Graham talking about Donald Trump and how he's proud of the president.
When a European leader speaks, no bad guy listens. When Trump speaks, everybody's on edge. I was never more proud of President Trump than I was yesterday. He stood up for America. He refused to be lectured to. And at the end of the day, whether or not Zelensky can change, I don't know. But I'm proud of the president.
Charlie, it's shocking that Senator Graham would say that, particularly about our European allies. It seems to me that the Europeans are not about to take this lying down. They have a summit today of European leaders, including Germany, Denmark, Italy, the Netherlands, France, Norway, Poland, Spain, Finland, Sweden, the Czech Republic. Arrivals are happening as we speak. We just put it up in London. Romania, the Turkish Foreign Minister, the NATO Secretary General, the President of the European Commission, and the European Council will also attend. Even Canada is hopping on a flight to make it to London to have this conversation. And during the summit, it's going to include talks on establishing a European military force to be sent to Ukraine that would underpin a ceasefire. Starmer noted it would involve a coalition of the willing. These are the European leaders arriving to fill the void that Donald Trump is creating by siding with Vladimir Putin, Charlie.
What you are describing is the world order being remade in real time right now. This is not just a simple adjustment. This, again, is the world recognizing that, OK, Donald Trump needs to be taken seriously and literally, and we cannot trust him. He is not going to be a reliable ally or negotiator. You know, I've given a lot of thought over the years to people like Lindsey Graham. And by the way, John McCain must be so horrified to see what his friend is doing right now from wherever he is watching this. But, you know, you think about people like Lindsey Graham, who I'm sure have been telling themselves over the years that, you know, I need to suck up to Donald Trump because I need to be in the room. I need to be the adult that stops bad things from happening. And yet, over the last week, what has happened? We have abandoned our allies. We voted with Russia in the United Nations. We humiliated, not just simply berated President Zelensky, but humiliated him in a way that world leaders do not do. What happened in the Oval Office has never happened in American history. No American president has behaved that way in public. Lindsey Graham knows this, and yet has decided that he's going to continue his sycophancy, his bending of the knee. And again, at one time you could say, okay, he's being transactional. He's going to prevent Donald Trump from doing something horrible. But as you watch Marco Rubio and you watch Lindsey Graham, you realize there is no red line. They're not the adults in the room. They're the invertebrates in the room who are going to stay silent and then enable the worst things that they would have recognized 5 minutes ago. And I think this is literally what's on display. Now, Lisa Murkowski, I really liked her comment and the fact that she's talking about how, you know, her stomach is turning. It felt real. Maybe she should have thought of that before she voted to confirm Tulsi Gabbard as the director of national intelligence.
That's true. She was wrong on that. She was wrong on that issue.
Raising a glass on that one, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Charlie and Tara, please both stick around with us. We have more to chat about, like Donald Trump's joint address to Congress on Tuesday. And next hour, folks, Peter Baker, the New York Times chief White House correspondent, tells us.
Elon Musk, who is an unelected official of this administration, now out here pushing that we leave NATO. All right.
The Secretary General just arrived.
The Secretary General just arrived in this conversation in London. Your assessment of, as a member of Congress, of what you witnessed and what you think the next posture of this government of the United States should be, because clearly the government's going in one direction. I still sense the American people are not necessarily moving in that direction.
Well, I think that's right. And look, I think what we saw was shameful and horrible, right? The supposed leader of the free world siding with an autocrat over democracy and over the sort of order that has kept the peace in Europe since before any of us were born, even you, Michael.
Thank you. Way before I was born.
And so, you know, I think that it's important that we speak up and talk about the importance of this alliance, this NATO alliance, why we're helping Ukraine, because it's not just about Ukraine, right? It's about standing up for democracy everywhere. And I think it's also important that Republicans in Congress who know this, who I know in private conversations are horrified by what happened, speak up and stand up, because they're the only ones who have the ability to push back right now in the real institutional ways that we need.
I think it's important to note, Congresswoman, that the meeting inside the Oval Office, which has, of course, gotten a lot of attention for good reason, is set against the backdrop of our president threatening tariffs against a variety of our allies, making accusations against Europe, saying that they are out, that the EU is out to get America, and you have the EU pushing back hard against that notion. This is from the AP. The EU wasn't formed to screw anyone, Poland Prime Minister Donald Tusk said in an X post. Quite the opposite. It was formed to maintain peace, to build respect among our nations, to create free and fair trade, and to strengthen our transatlantic friendship. As simple as that. I wonder how you counter the narrative that is coming out of this administration that we are somehow adversaries with our allies, or that our allies are out to screw us, and explain to folks that we're actually talking about how you keep America and the rest of the world safe.
Yeah, it's such a good question, Alicia, because I think this is key, right? This is not things that we're doing out of the goodness of our heart. It's not things that we're doing because it's feels good. It's not charity, right? The things we do, the things USAID does, the alliances we have with Europe, these are things that keep America safe. And
so, folks, Zelensky laid a trap for Trump. He obviously didn't want it to go down like it did, but after Zelensky realized he needed to be quick. So after that meeting, he didn't just, go back to Europe. He stayed and he went on to the media, including right-wing media. And he went on social media, as we've been talking about, and sharing messages of thanks and support from American politicians that weren't nut job Republicans, but also from world leaders. And what he's done is he showed his side is united and has a principle. And maybe if you're a Putin supporter, you don't agree with him, but he clearly has principles, and he's consistent, and he has allies, and they're standing up for what they believe in. And what he's exposed is that Trump and the Republicans are fractured and are totally without principle. In just 1 or 2 days, he's exposed the entire GOP. Not only Trump, but also the ostensibly pro-Ukraine wing like Lindsey Graham. And he exposed him for being an absolute flip-flop ghoul. And now all of a sudden he's proud of Trump. It really goes to show, guys, that Zelensky is much better at this than Trump. Much better at this than Trump. And it's not even close.